We'll give you something that's helped me as I've kind of worked this process, and it's called the Rule of Three. Now, I mentioned Walter Murch before, and he has these 6 rules of where he makes an edit or what shot he uses on a film. And he talks about the first or the last 3 aren't really applicable to weddings because it talks about like eye lines and like, spatial context of where the characters are and movement in the frame and things like that. They're not super, into what we're doing necessarily. But I think 3 of those things are really important, and I think will help us as we're editing our films. The least important thing, it's not important, but it's the least important, is rhythm. We talked about pacing earlier. This is basically that. Pacing is more of a general overall thing. Rhythm is more shot to shot. So I'll give you an example. Say you have a shot where your character is on one side of the frame, and then all of a sudden you cut to another shot and the other character is on the same side. That's going to be disorienting. The rhythm of that shot to shot visually even is just going to kind of not be good. So you want to try to find a shot where, you have a character on one side of the frame and then a character on the other side of the frame if you can, or something else. So that just talks about the rhythm and pacing. Obviously, we talked about if a cut is too fast, if a cut is too slow, things like that. So that's the rhythm, and that's something you just have to feel out. Like I said, muting your sound during that can help you with that and things like that. The second most important, and also the second least important, is story. You might be surprised that it's the second, but it is actually the second. The storyline is important, obviously, because does a shot advance the story? Am I just shooting and showing details just for the sake of it? I'm not trying to create an aesthetic environment. I'm just shooting it. I've been in situations before where there's a billion decorations, like literally a billion. And I cover them all, I shoot them all, but I get back to the editing and I'm like, I don't want to sit here for 30 seconds or even 20 seconds just decoration after decoration after decoration, because this is a film about 2 people, not about their flowers. Now their flowers are part of the aesthetic of the day and things like that, but it's not about the flowers. So, the story really kind of changes what you do based on that a lot of times. And even how you flow one scene into another. We saw earlier how the audio matched the visuals of the aisle, and how the audio matched the visuals of her getting into the dress. So even the audio will dictate the shots you use in the storyline. But the most important thing on a shot or an edit, by far, is emotion. And this is where the goosebumps come in. Emotion is what should drive every single one of your edits. It shouldn't be like you feeling obligated to show a certain speech. It should be about the emotion of the story. I'm actually going to give you an example of this instead of talking about it more, because there's a lot of times where we prepare as well as we can, and we get in this situation where this moment unfolds and it's just not the most ideal situation, whether the lighting is not ideal, whether the audio is not ideal. And I'll preface this by saying this room was very cramped that this happened in, and it was not the most ideal, and I went back and forth on whether to use it at all, because the photographer, bless him, he's great to work with, but he was snapping crazy, and you could hear his shutter constantly. But the emotion outweighed all the technical elements, and the story also outweighed all the technical elements. And even the rhythm of it wasn't how I wanted it to be. It was a little choppy, but I think you'll understand what I mean when you watch this.
My dearest Whitney, look at you. What a beautiful bride you are. This day is the day all mothers dream of when they first hold that precious bundle of you. There was another person who cherished and loved you to the very core of his being. You called him your hero. Your father. I know if he were here today, he would beam in with joy getting to witness his baby girl marry the one whom her soul loves. God had other plans for you and Papa on this wedding day. However, there's an old tradition for brides to the rhyme of something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. Papa is here with you today, bringing with him the part of the tradition, something blue. Located under the train of your dress is a piece of his heart in blue to foster the old tradition of something blue. He will be here today walking you down the aisle to give you to the one your soul loves.
Those camera clicks drive me crazy. But that moment, I mean, it happened really fast too, and I didn't even expect that. Bride was really reserved like the whole day, and I didn't even expect the emotions from her, or even her mom. They had been very reserved through the whole process. And when that happened, I was just like, I have to start the film with that. And that's actually the very beginning. That's the first 30 seconds going back to that of the whole film, which really just, goosebumps. So anyways, that's just something to keep in mind as you're editing, as you're crafting your films. Always lead with that emotion, then follow that up with story, and then follow that up with rhythm. Sometimes the rhythm doesn't work. Sometimes the story doesn't work, and sometimes it's just the emotions. And always lead with that, because we're making films that should move people. Love should move people, and that's the kind of films we're making.